25 years ago, I was invited to Albany to read with Thomas Flanagan, John Montague, and Bill Kennedy. And I was so excited. I called my mother and I said, "Mom, I'm going to read with three of my literary heroes, Thomas Flanagan, who wrote The Year of the French, and John Montague, my mentor from University College Cork, and Bill Kennedy, who won the Pulitzer." And there was silence on the other end of the line. My mother finally said, "Why you?" Well, 25 years have failed to answer that question, but it has certainly not diminished. It has heightened my pleasure at sharing this evening with Bill. And I want to start with a poem from that night. This is by the Irish poet John Montague, and it's called Semiotics. Loudest of all our protests when the deaf-mute club of Ireland gathered to honor a brother cut down by a plastic bullet near his council home. Challenged, he could only wave to answer some tense and trigger-happy soldier. On the broad British embassy steps, the president of the deaf-mutes delivers an impassioned, fiery speech in sign language. Fierce applause. What officials view from those elegant Georgian rooms is a semaphore of fingers and an angry swirl of palms. I'm also delighted to share this evening with two other literary heroes of mine, Dr. Mooney and Cardinal Lenin. And while I can't match their brilliance or good looks, I can bring you tonight the answer to a riddle older than the one posed by my mother. This is an answer that has troubled scholars for 2 millennia, and it is the origin of Homer. 9 cities in Greece claim his birthplace. And in fact, there are scholars who believe he wasn't even born in Greece. They believe that Samuel Butler in the 18th century, for instance, said, Homer's Trojan sympathies are so pronounced, it must be he's a descendant of ancient Troy. Imam Jacob Wilkins, a contemporary scholar, says that the confluence of rivers in England so match the geography described in the Iliad that it is clear that Troy was located in Cambridgeshire, in England. Edo Nyland says that Homer spoke a version of ancient Basque from Spain. Well, the research team at To Banquet with the Ethiopians, a memoir of life before the alphabet, has unearthed an email chain between W.H.D. Rouse, who translated the Iliad into English prose, into plain English as he called it, and Homer himself, which establishes beyond doubt that Homer was born not in Greece, nor in Hisarlik Anatolia where Schliemann excavated Troy, nor in England, nor in Spain, but in Queens, New York. I'm going to share one of these emails with you tonight. We have delicately cut it from its origin and pasted it directly without alteration into To Banquet with the Ethiopians, a memoir of life before the alphabet, where it is now Chapter 11, The Etymology of Queens. From W.H.D. Rouse at yahoo.com to Homeros at omphalos.com, Monday, June 16th, 2014. In response to your last email, Homeros, My years at the University of Inverness, immersed in the study of ancient Basque texts, has sharpened my conviction that there is one root from which all dialects spring. In their prime form, consonants notch time, and vowels, they shift, a late interpolation swelling from eternity's near precincts. Be, it means, not merely Phoenician house composed of a child rocking, means itself, and radiates significance like tines of an Ogham monstrance carved on dolmens on a wind-swept coast. You comprehend. But that's not why I made your life's secret my life's work. Your plaint that I have flattened and desiccated what you call your poem saddens me. Greek, American English, merely chirographies of babble, murmuration startled from sapless twigs unimaginably distant from the bowl, and meter, 5 or 6, what matter? The quills stab at giving voice to the sea. Is the rhythm of the cosmos bound by such? You do not seem to realize, my good bard, that in establishing a text you have laid bare to every scrivener a livid script. Eyes bore into a page until it bleeds, a separate fork in Heraclitus' stream. Despite your epithets and ululated phonemes, and moon and cup and runes and arabesques, and 1,184 ships, and 148 grisly wounds, your Iliad and its sequels are in fact memoir. We know this now. First clue, first book, Homeros. Your pantheon. They squabble like an ing-dept committee. Tenure for Sarpedon? Unpaid sabbatical for Achilles? Even your Vedic chant and autistic rocking cannot levitate disfigured shapes into myth without, of course, revealing to one attuned to the occult the nature and cause of the disfigurement. The high canonical scriveners have dismissed my colleagues Edo Nyland and Iman Jacob Wilkins because they have spun tales that trace your text from Norway to West Cork to Rivendell. Zealots and autodidacts they remain with their theory that the Myrmidons were Celts and that you pirated their mother's Odyssey, replacing the great goddess with a swarm of male gods and masculine projections. Still, the root does not starve the farthest branch. For all my endowed chair in philology, my fame as the father of unified theory etymology, and a record as amateur sleuth that would have made your father proud, your email makes it clear you think I am a hack. Maybe, but not the hack you think. Homeros, there is no high shelf floating in the ether in between a stylized moon and cup. No list folded in your favored verse translation. But there is a Word doc file called 265. My Trojan horse has breached your firewall and hacked your antique gateway. And after months of deep analysis, I have cracked 16 helixes of code and gleaned your icons and emoticons enough to figure that your native home is far from Ilium or Ithaca. There is still more to delve, but at least I know that while you are no Pict or Proto-Viking, you've probed, like your Odysseus, the corners of the world to hide from shame. I know your fear of becoming Agamemnon and your struggle with the depression of Achilles. It breaks my heart. Your need to unbind skin with booze or sex or smack or poetry, drifting into oblivion the way Zeus banqueted with the Ethiopians. It's knowing this, scanning the text, seeing that your drafts are all your own, that set me straightening hexameter to sentences, marshaling plain English to fix the Iliad in the world that is. Let others, as you have, find in it the story of their lives, without laboring to rock back and forth between hallucination and the margins. This was my mission, this my sacred trust. And now you accuse me of betraying the voice you silenced 3,000 years ago. Menin, rage, so you began, and so Achilles' anger flames in me. I call upon the deities you maimed. I call upon the muse whom you blasphemed, emanation of the chthonic queen you abandoned in a burning city, naked, ranting in a foreign tongue. I swear by these divinities, despite all provocation and the lure of tabloids, I've kept your secret. Let it remain buried beneath a stage-set battlefield in Hisarlik, Anatolia. But I want you now to realize that I know just who you are and where you really came from. Beside your register, I have unearthed in an unnamed, unsearchable subfolder 490 JPEGs. See attached. Here they are, arrayed for retribution. The furies that have chased since 265, since the day you first tried to be a man, stealing my book from the Main Street 5 and 10. A catalog of nightmares that began when you split open the bead curtain and stepped into the lava-lit lamp room, back room behind the candy storefront, and unsheathed from a brown, plain paper wrapper leather cuffs and whips and phalluses, bodies upside down in ropes and chains, naked, spread-eagled, blurry figures sheathed in rubber, gagged. They haunt you still, Homeros. They constrict vessels to the heart. They've bloated to an epic that takes 2 external hard drives to download. And while Wilkins and Nyland are misled, they're closer than any scrivener knows to the pith of culture and of war. The monosyllable, the core that you encode in burning cities, rape, cave figures, disfigurement and terror, the alpha and omega of your poem and the fracture between voice and alphabet, your true home, forever alien, is the royal title of the goddess you pursue and flee across a vowel-deep chasm to yield in English from the ancient Basque. What I most fear, I most yearn for. Thank you.